Good morning. Welcome to the May 29th, 2024 meeting of the Appeal Committee. I'm Councillor Jeff Rawani and I'm serving as committee's chair. I represent the North Kildonan ward. With me this morning, we have Councillors Janice Lukes from Waverley West, Councillor Jason Schreier from Elmwood East Kildonan, and Councillor John Orlico from River Heights, Fort Garry. We also have with us a large number of staff from the public service, and our committee clerk is Brendan Harris. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I haven't spent hours and hours with the minutes of the last meeting, but does somebody care to move that the minutes of the meeting held May 15, 2024 be taken as read and confirmed?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We will now have the clerk introduce the first appeal and information on the process here.
In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it's your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be a part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to reject a variance for 389 Fraser Road under DAV 106191A/2024B. All participants have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. Once you have been heard, you can either remain in the Zoom meeting or leave and continue to watch live via the city's YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute your audio player now. I'll now turn it over to the planners for a brief overview.
Good day, councillors and Mr. Clerk. The subject property is located on the north side of Fraser Road, east of St. Mary's Road, in the rural residential area, in the Wilkes South neighborhood, within the Riel community and the St. Norbert Seine River ward. 389 Fraser Road is 353 feet wide, 415 deep, and 4.9 acres in area. The proposal is to maintain all existing accessory structures with a combined floor area of 3,400 square feet in height and one structure at a height of 16 feet. The applicant indicates that he requires all the existing accessory structures for his family to store lawn and yard maintenance tools and equipment and vehicles. It is recommended that the appeal be rejected. This concludes my summary. However, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So they're asking for storage space. That's a question of storage space.
They've constructed two accessory structures without permits, and they're asking to maintain those as well as the existing ones on the site.
When were they constructed?
The 40 by 40 was constructed sometime between 2007 and 2009. The 20 by 40 structure was constructed sometime between 2014 and 2016.
And they just didn't get permits?
No.
Okay. You get deja vu here of another meeting. Okay.
What is the penalty for such construction as this without permits?
They would pay a penalty fee at the time of their development permit application. Approximately $400 and something is the going as per the fee bylaw. It's the current fee.
That's it?
I'm not aware if they've been given any fines or penalties for work without a permit through the inspections branch. So that may be applicable.
Can someone find that out before we make a decision, please? And just so we understand the fines, I'd like to understand the fines. And I would like to understand what ballpark costs are associated with the permits to build both.
So they were constructed, the most recent was constructed when?
The most recent one is between 2014 and 2016.
And even through the value added process through assessment and taxation, we didn't pick up on it until, or how did this come to be?
I believe, double check, it came through as a complaint from a neighbor.
The reason the administration is recommending against the appeal is because,
Normally, we're supportive of approximately 1,600 square feet for larger lots that would need more than 880, which is the allowable amount. But they far exceeded the 1,600. They're at 3,400.
So do we know, in terms of like costs and fees and stuff, I mean, this clearly would arguably add value to the property. Do we know if they've been paying property taxes based on these accessory structures, or when were they not on the tax roll? Did we have any acknowledgement of them through that process?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And you wouldn't know what value that would add through the various assessment periods. Like, I mean, again, if we were to allow this to happen, I think it'd be only fair that they pay the entirety plus interest of any property taxes that were not paid. Not to say that we're gonna let them keep the structures, but just to, I would think that a full administrative report would say, how has the city been wronged to this point, and what's the impact? Seems to be kind of lacking. My finance chair hat on there.
So is there any way that you can find out if they've been,
From what I can tell, they haven't been imposed any fees through the inspection department.
so no penalty fees?
No, and the penalty for the development permit has been, will be added to the permit once it's ready to be issued, but it hasn't gone to that stage yet because we're dealing with the variance.
So then no taxes probably on it either.
Unfortunately, the taxation department does not communicate with zoning and permits, so they may have gone out and noticed new accessory structures and started to tax them on it without advising us that they've done
Okay,
so.
so just say that again, the taxation department,
If the taxation department becomes aware of new development or accessory structures constructed, they will go out and reassess the property, but once they do so, they do not advise zoning and permits that they've done additional taxation on the property based on new development.
so do they not have something that they can check when they go out to see what has permits and what's like registered or?
Unfortunately, whether there's a permit or not, if the structure exists, it's assessed on its area based on the current mill rate and the value. So you could essentially have someone not obtain permits and,
Right.
build many structures and not pay the taxes on it until the taxation department became aware of it, whether it be through just driving by.
So how many detached structures are there on the property according to built?
We get the square footage for each building.
There's a 20 by 40 that was built without the permits and the 40 by 40 built without permits.
20 by 20,
Yeah,
And 20
sorry, 20 by 40.
20 by 40.
40 by 40, those are the two structures in question. Existing on the site was a 22 by 24 near where these ones were constructed and a 23 by 24 near the dwelling.
So 5 structures effectively. So if I'm looking at city tax, it should list 5
It should list 5.
Why does the report say 4?
Yeah, no,
for accessories.
4 accessory
Oh, plus
structures.
the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so city tax shows 3.
so, because I don't want to do the math. So you're indicating in the report that, you said 880 square feet generally for that property size. We could be a little bit open to 1,600 maybe. Does that still require variance, I gather?
Supportable variance.
Supportable variance. So, so we got the 20 by 40 is at 800 square feet.
Yeah.
So we got 800, 1,600.
and it's 3,400, you're saying?
Combined.
Combined.
1,600. And then the other ones are, well, the 22 by 24 is, it's like a calculator up at least.
So the original ones were 23 by 24 and 22 by 44?
No.
Page 12,
sorry.
we've got a great map of the measurements.
Thank you.
Just wanted to get the square footage, see which ones are off.
To get back to the current penalty fee that will be applied to the development permit should it be issued would be $422.
Right, so if we support your report and deny the appeal, then basically they just pay the $440 and that's it.
No, if the appeal is upheld, sorry, can you say that again, please?
So if we support your report,
Yes, okay.
okay, if we support your report, then what are the financial implications to the proponent?
The removal of the structures in question.
Oh, the removal. of
The removal, because I
structures.
wouldn't be able to provide them with the development permit.
Right, the
after.
removal.
Removal, yes.
Okay.
So, if I may?
Yeah, please.
So clarifying, that's where I'm leading to. So with with an existing structure, it's about, 1,100 square feet. I think that's it with the two existing structures. So they are actually, I'm not sure. So those are also in question, if you do 880 square feet, then they're gonna have to remove 3 buildings. Is that correct?
The other two existing structures, I believe, were put up with permits. They were approved at a time when they were allowed a larger.
So they're not in question right now.
Those two are not in
Okay,
question.
that's-
Only the
that's-
two that,
So it's just.
the 20 by 40 and the 40.
So when you're looking at the 2,400 square feet of extra space, are we looking at the 1,600 square feet of variance for just those two structures, or do we have to also include the other two structures?
We have to include the other two structures.
Right, so no matter what, those two structures are surpassing not only the bylaw, but even the acceptable
The
variance.
acceptable variance,
Okay.
correct.
So that's where they're at. So it's those two structures, or they can get rid of the older ones, I guess.
Mhm.
But even then, they'd still be the problem there. Okay, thank you.
So looks,
And then if we don't agree with your report, if we allow them to go forward and take out a permit,
Mhm.
then they basically take out whatever the cost of the permit is.
Plus the 422
Plus
for
the
the penalty.
422.
Yeah. And they'll also need a subsequent building permit after the development permit is issued.
Mhm. What's the cost of the building permit? About? A building permit for each structure. And is it $400 for each structure, or is it?
No, the overall development, the work without the permit for the both structures. So you don't charge them twice for it. The detached garage building permit would probably be $237, and they would need one per building.
And he needs 4 in this case.
Just the two, the first two structures that are existing are already accounted for
Got
and
it.
compliant.
Okay. All righty.
ready for the appellant then?
Sure.
Okay,
Okay, so this time I will call forward the appellant, who is also the applicant on the file. Cecil Ecker, if you'd like to come forward. Yeah, you can just come to the end of the table here. You'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
Thank you. I'm extremely nervous, so bear with me. I might have a hard time talking.
Okay, you have to
Sit
sit
down,
up
Steve.
there
Sorry.
and talk into the mic for
Thank
the
you.
record. Thank you.
So these buildings, there are some references that were made that were not incorrect, but just I'm going to verify some things. I did pay for some variances already, over $1,000 already. I have no issue paying whatever fines are imposed on me. I do apologize. I did get an electrical permit on my building. It was been passed on the larger structure. A guy came out 3 times. One guy retired, and I guess he didn't put the proper paperwork through. So the second guy came out and also passed my electrical variance. So that one I already started paying taxes because of the electrical variance was on there. So they recognized that building. I'm not trying to hide anything. I did get all my neighbors to support me. I went around and they all signed, and
Yeah, so we're listening, right?
sorry.
No.
Sorry. These buildings are very important to me. My 2 sons and I were into cars, and it's a hobby of ours, and it's very passionate about it. And like I said, the other 2 buildings we just use for storage. When we first moved in, we had some stuff stolen, and it seems like if you have anything out and available for people to see, it's like a invitation for them to come and take it. So that's why I have all my equipment, my stuff. We do live on a gravel road. We do require additional vehicles. There is no bus service out there, so we do require additional vehicles to drive back and forth. And I'm probably missing a lot on my list, but I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. Just the garage is very passionate to me. So. I don't know what else to say, but
We get 10 minutes to say whatever you want. So if you don't want to use it in 10 minutes, that's okay.
I would like to use it all.
Okay.
Um,
Tell us about the electrical permit. You applied for the electrical permit?
yeah, I applied for it. They came out, they inspected it all, passed with no problem. It passed twice, actually. The first guy that came out retired and he forgot to put the proper paper through, and then they phoned me up and said, hey, you're not signed off. So the next guy came out, they passed it, it all looked good. Like I said, I think I started paying the extra taxes on that one as soon as that went through. I can't verify that, but I know our tax bill.
And you
that year-
called them to ask for an electrical permit?
Yes, I
And
called
you-
the city and asked.
And you didn't think to ask for a building permit?
The building was built a few years before and I did go through the process, but I'm sorry, that's my fault. I should have got it all done properly, but. And I wasn't trying to hide nothing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to hide nothing. These buildings, if you look, there is a map of my property. They do not affect my neighbors one bit. That's what I was mostly worried about. So when I went and talked to them, they had no issue with it. Even the last time I went and talked to them, I got all the signatures. Some of the people that lived there, I don't know who complained before, but it was an old guy down the road that he had issues. I don't know. He's unfortunately, he passed away. So, but,
What did you get the signatures for?
the
for
city
this,
asked
for
me, yes,
this.
they wanted the signatures for this year.
And then, and the neighbors all,
All agreed there. They have no issues with it.
was that a submission, I guess, mostly public service?
I did have them all signed in different papers and submitted, yes.
Right, okay.
And also, from my property lines, it doesn't really, I've never cut down any of my trees, really. If you look at my property, it's very treed, so it's nice and quaint. You can't even see the buildings right now in the summer. In the wintertime, yes, you can see them through the trees, but
Anything else you want to say? There's other questions.
if you have any questions for me that I may not be answering, I'd like to answer any questions that you guys may have about it if I could.
Okay.
I may be missing some stuff that may be pertinent to this. I've never been in one of these before and I hope to never be in one again, to tell you the truth, but
Do we all?
Yeah, if we all feel the same way.
we're just a couple of elderly kids that live over here, so.
Okay. Okay.
That's your presentation then? Okay. Questions, Councillor Shire?
Yeah, how many acres do you have there?
I have 5 acres, actually, not 4.9.
5 acres.
Yeah, and I cover my buildings cover 1.5% of my property.
What percent?
1.5, 1.56 actually, to be exact. What I have.
4.9, that's 5, that's not 1. And you're on the north side?
North side, yes.
And what about your neighbors to the east or west? How many acres do they have?
They all have 5 acres, except for the gentleman behind me. I think he has a little bit more. He covers a very long property. It's not very wide, but it's almost 2 kilometers long.
Do you have any neighbors to the north?
Yes, I have one old neighbor to the north, and unfortunately, he doesn't live out there. He only comes out there once in a while. And the other neighbor to the north, they signed off on it. I couldn't get the other guy to sign because he's not there. He's never home anymore.
Okay. So what was your success rate in getting people to sign in favor, in the petition in your favor?
100%.
100%. Okay. And this process was done when you got all the signatures for the petition. When was that done in this process for the this appeal here that we talk about here?
Well, unfortunately, this has been going on for quite some time. I tried to get this ratified, but the first time I got the letter in the mail, that gentleman retired and he said, since you had an electrical permit on, and I'm just quoting what he said, I can't confirm. This is what he told me. He said, since you had an electric permit on the big garage, that garage is not in question. It's just the storage building behind the garage. And I also had a pool, an above ground pool that that didn't meet whatever requirements. So I just took the pool down. I removed the pool from the property.
And what did the pool have to do with this appeal process? Was that a completely?
This is how it all started. It started with that way back in 2008, I think it was. It was not 2008, 2014-ish, I guess. And then it escalated into 2020 when he retired and then the new guy started. He said, I'm going back through these and getting on him again. But so he started in 2020, sent me this letter, I think it's in there, saying that the 2 structures require permits. So then I went about going to get the permits. And then that's when I had went to the city, and the city said, well, you're over things, you have to do multiple things to get it done. I had to pay some variance fees that I paid for like over height. I think and by the way, I think I'm only 3 feet over height. I think it's 16 and I'm at 13 or something, or it's 13, I'm at 16. So, and then COVID happened, and then it kind of went off the radar for a while. And then as soon as COVID came back, they were doing back things again, and that's when it came on the radar again. And then that's when I tried to say to my wife, let's just get this thing done and taken care of it all. And then I don't know which one is Donna. Thank you very much. You've been very helpful for me, getting me to, because I don't know what to do. She got me to get the permits, variances made, go through the appeals, and the gentleman before her, Jamie, was it Jamie before?
Jamie.
He actually came out to my site in September of 2022 or 3 or 4. And he was in favor of supporting me actually before he retired in September.
So you posted variant signs
Yes, the city posted variance signs. Yes, they did.
and then you had no one objecting to it, I
As
guess.
far as I know, no one has objected to it.
Right. But you didn't follow through on getting the permits at that point.
The signs only just went up recently. I never put variance signs back out in the day, no.
But what did you pay for in the past? You said you paid for something a while
I
ago.
had to pay for every time, I guess you pay for a variance, it costs a certain amount of money to pay for the variance, so I did pay for those.
But that was just recently.
That was last year, I believe. I'm not sure exactly when. It's been ongoing.
January
January,
of this year
yeah.
you paid.
Sorry, yes.
Councilor Orlando?
Thanks, yeah, thanks for showing today. I know it's a difficult situation. Can definitely feel your passion. I'm just gonna go through some of the building usages. You said storage. So we have one building right beside the house.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's like a car garage, like your house garage.
It was, but she keeps most of her gardening stuff in that garage.
Okay.
Gardening and her various antiques and stuff like that in that one.
And then the other building, the older building, which I believe is a 22 by 24, that's storage as well?
That one, I keep my car that I drive,
Sorry, what's that?
and I'm sorry,
Can you repeat yourself?
I keep the car that I drive in there to work, my daily driver car. And the snow machines and the quader in that one.
We'll call that one the garage. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the two newer buildings, 20 by 40.
That's just the storage building, so all the car parts and various stuff like that, and what else is in there? There's a lot of car parts in there, and
That's more your hobby one.
it's not real hobby. That's just the storage for my hobby stuff. Yes.
Yeah. And then the last, the big Kahunga,
Yeah.
the 40 by 40, that's where all your toys are and stuff like that.
That's basically. I'm just gonna say that's my palace. You can tell.
It's your man
Yeah,
cave.
yeah. Like,
Yeah, house, yeah.
This is how passionate my wife makes me. I'm not allowed in the garage on Wednesdays. That's our family night where we sit down and have dinner with the kids and everything. That's how passionate I am about my garage. Yes, tonight, yes.
Okay, that's, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none right now. Thank you very much. If you just want to step aside, we'll go through the rest of anybody else is registered and we'll go from there.
Thank you. And thank you very much for the water. It's helpful.
Okay, up next, in support of the appeal, we have, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, Cameo Egger.
You don't.
don't have to.
You're not obligated.
There you go.
But maybe if it's here, just because it's emotional, same like that, but I mean, we raise
Yeah.
our voice on here and.
Okay,
All right, so in that case, also in support of the appeal, my apology stands, Casey Kylock. Thank you. So they'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name.
Good morning. My name is Kasha Kellogg, and I'm here to present in support of the Egger family and their appeal of the Director of Planning, Property and Development's decision to deny the variance for the maintenance of 4 detached structures on their property located at 389 Fraser Road. By way of background, I'm a lifelong resident of Winnipeg. I'm a lawyer and mediator. I've done work in the areas of civil litigation, real estate law, and administrative law. I also have a master's degree in public administration, and I have a strong interest in public policy making and governance. So that's kind of why I'm so passionate about being here today. And also I'm here to support the Egger family. I'm not representing them as legal counsel, but simply as a friend. So my presentation today will be composed of three main parts. Firstly, I'll provide some background on the Egger family and their property at 389 Fraser Road. You have already heard a little bit about that, but I would like to elaborate on that. I'll then just discuss decisions made regarding variances for oversized structures at similar types of properties in the city. And then lastly, I will discuss the public policy considerations related to variances for oversized structures on properties and the reasons for granting this appeal. Cecil and Cameo Egger are the owners of the property at 389 Fraser Road, and they've lived there for approximately 20 years. The property is about 5 acres in size, which you've already heard. They have their house and their 4 detached garages. They enjoy spending most of their time outside of their house and on their property. We've already spoken about how the garages have a combined size of over 3,400 square feet. They're located deeper into the property. They're about 115 feet from Fraser Road. So if you're driving on Fraser Road, like they're way in there on their property. You've also heard how numerous owners of the properties near their property are supportive of their oversized structures, and they also have many of them themselves. They do similar things in terms of having these garages that are oversized. You've already heard about the cars, but I'll elaborate a bit more on how the Eggers property is an exciting place. Cecil enjoys working on cars, especially restoring vintage cars. This is not just a mere hobby of his, but a source of meaning, passion, and livelihood. He likes to flip cars and earns a little bit of money doing it, but he also travels outside of the province and country to attend car shows and events. So this is particularly, a big part of his life. Cecil and Cameo are very proud of their 2 sons who learned how to work on cars and fix them due to the availability of space to do so and their, big garage property, the one that's 40 by 40 feet. Their sons have gone on to study and work in the trades thanks to those detached structures on that property that gave them the space to learn their crafts and also store their tools and equipment to be able to learn those crafts. Cameo is an avid gardener and enjoys spending time with her pets outdoors. She and her family do an exceptional job of maintaining their property, which is not only a hobby, but an essential component of their lifestyle and desire to remain physically active and healthy. They enjoy hosting their family and friends at their home, especially outdoors. To maintain a property of this size, a significant number of tools and supplies are required. 5 acres is a lot. The city's limits on the size of detached structures on properties fail to consider the needs of owners on these larger properties, especially like the ones at 389 Fraser Road. And I'll talk a little bit more about other properties that have had to have these oversized structures to accommodate their needs. I think that these details about the Egger family are important for you to know because they help to illustrate why they require so many detached structures and so much extra space. To store the cars, tools, and equipment to maintain their property, hobbies, and lifestyle, they just need a lot of storage space. 2 of the older detached garages were built before the Eggers purchased the property, and then they later built the 40 by 40 foot garage approximately 15 years ago. As Cecil mentioned, the detached structures are also necessary to deter theft. In the past, they've had items stolen from their property, and it's because they didn't have a place to store them and lock them up. Now that they have these detached structures, they've noticed that the theft from their property has decreased, and so it's been really important to them. The city has granted variances for similar types of properties and situations as the one at 389 Fraser Road. Donna's administrative report from May 13th of this year indicates that previous orders for properties on Fraser Road, I believe it was 3 of them, were allowed for oversized structures. Those 2 orders related to those oversized structures were for structures that were 1,728 square feet and 2,016 square feet, and for heights of 18 feet and 19.25 feet, meaning the structures were perhaps a little bit smaller in overall square footage, but they were also taller. So the Eggers have higher square footage for their structures, but they're shorter than the ones that have been granted variances. The oversized structures are all notably larger and taller than the city's bylaws require. So what I'm trying to say is that if similar structures on Fraser Road have been allowed to have variances, then I think the same thing should be granted for the Eggers at their property. I'd also like to talk about another property on 1375 Liberty Street, which is located in Wilkes South. The detached structure at this location is 4,200 square feet and it's 23 feet high. So if we're talking about, straying away from what the bylaws require, that's an example of one that's drastically over what the bylaws require, or the 1,600 feet, that's kind of like that buffer zone for maybe what would be okay. After a recent appeal, a variance was granted for that detached structure, which is vastly larger and taller than the ones at 389 Fraser Road. The land at 1375 Liberty Street is smaller than the land at 389 Fraser Road, meaning that that detached structure that's 4,200 square feet takes up much more overall square footage on that property than the detached structures do at 389 Fraser Road. And Mr. Egger spoke about how his detached structures take up 1.56% of his overall property, which is a very small percentage. Like the Eggers, the owner at 1375 Liberty Street stated that he needed the oversized garage to store equipment and supplies for maintaining the property. If the city can allow the variance for that property on 1375 Liberty Street, and they've deviated from the bylaw requirements, then I think that a similar variance should be provided to the Eggers. I urge the committee to give significant consideration to its past decisions for similar situations and exercise consistency when reviewing requests for variances and appeals. Given the strong precedence that has been set by granting of variances on other properties, it is my opinion that this committee must grant the variance for Fraser Road. Instead of focusing on the degree of the bylaw breach, I think that the focus should be on the precedent that has been set. And I think this is particularly important because consistency is key when making decisions with discretionary power. The residents of the city deserve to have a sense of predictability to be able to understand how requests for future variances may be decided. The last part of my presentation is about public policy concerns. The topic of variances for oversized structures on properties in Winnipeg has received notable attention in recent months and years. So I have some key policy concerns I'd like to mention, the main one being the floodgate concern. Some of you are probably wondering if granting this variance will mean that more property owners who have these oversized structures will also have to get the variances. What will stop someone from building a 6,000 or 7,000 square foot structure that's like 25 feet tall? Well, the unique factors of this case suggest that there will not be a floodgate of requests for variances for similar types of properties as the ones that the Eggers have. The lots of the size of the one at 389 Fraser Road are kind of rare in our city. The lifestyle and personal circumstances of the Eggers are unique. The history of their property is unique. The floodgate argument can also be used by homeowners with oversized detached structures. Is every property in the city with this type of violation going to be required to substantially modify and possibly tear down their detached structures? The city likely doesn't have the administrative capacity to manage what could be an overwhelming amount of bylaw complaints for these oversized structures. And I don't think that it's the spirit of the bylaw to be used as a sword to substantially alter the use and enjoyment of detached structures on properties. After all, homeowners are often building these structures for practical and personal reasons. They want to be able to enjoy their hobbies, have active lifestyles, and enjoy their lives. Another policy concern is the impact that denying this appeal will have on the Eggers. You may have noticed they're a little bit emotional today because the thought of having to tear down these structures is not only taking away their livelihood, but it would be imposing a significant financial impact on them. Because not only would they be taking down these structures, they would have to build something new, right? Because they have a need for this storage. And they'd also have to store their personal items elsewhere while trying to take down these structures and then rebuild something new. So we're not just talking about like a fine of maybe $400 some and taking out a new permit to build a new structure. Because as you all may know, if you're homeowners, like the cost of building a garage or maybe, even just fixing your roof can run in the tens of thousands of dollars. Taking down and then rebuilding these structures, I would just estimate generally is going to be tens of thousands, if not over six figures potentially, because of the size of their structures and what they need to use them for. So the removal of the detached structures that would be required if this appeal is denied would drastically affect their ability to enjoy their hobbies, sources of livelihood, and maintain their active lifestyle. Based on all that I've discussed this morning, it is my strong opinion that the appeal committee should grant this appeal and cancel the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development. The Egger family should be granted a variance, and I'd just like to thank you for listening to my presentation. Subject to any questions from the committee, this concludes my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councilor Luca?
Good homework.
Yeah, good homework. And again, your arguments have been said before is, well, there's other people who are doing bad stuff, so why are you picking on me? We get those on fence heights because it's a complaint-driven system. That's why. We didn't make the complaint. A neighbor, someone brought it forward to us, and we have to deal with that. So on that point about, almost sound like you don't think we should have we should either allow all variances, or we should allow residents to do what they want on all the properties and ignore things. Is that not what you said?
If I could respectfully reply to your concern, because I think it's a very good question.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that the circumstances here are unique. You did hear from Mr. Ager that he did attempt at different times to try to get permits. It is not that he completely constructed these detached structures without any regard for the requirements by the city. He did start a process. He's been working with folks from the city since, I think he said, back to 2008. Now, did he approach this process perfectly? Absolutely not. He is an average man who is just trying to enjoy his lifestyle. And when he found out that there was issues, he took steps to try to correct them. He did not avoid the city. He did not try to go under the radar. He said this morning he apologizes for the fact that this has kind of become what it has. Had he had known at the outset that there were these requirements, I can assure you he would have gone about things in a different way. And so I'm not trying to make excuses for every, resident in Winnipeg who doesn't meet a bylaw requirement. I absolutely do not condone that. I think that this is a very particular circumstance with unique factors that cannot be applied across the city to all residents who have bylaw concerns and do not follow those bylaws. So I do respect your question and concern. I'm asking you essentially to have some grace for these folks, and to consider the precedent and the decision making that was done for previous similar properties, and to be consistent.
Again, yeah, that's fair. I'll just make one more question, just because we went back to this kind of a circular argument. So we have a precedent set, but we've also had precedent set where home builders come to us and say, I built a home and boy, I didn't actually get any permits either. Sorry about that. Well, guess what? The precedent was set there. Sorry, sir, this impacting the neighborhood quite severely. You're going to have to rip down your building. That's a precedent. We've done that more often than not. So precedent is pretty difficult when you pick and choose a precedent you want. We have told people to, precedent mostly, majority are, you have to do some serious modifications because you missed our bylaws. That's a precedent. There are some offshoots that do happen based on circumstances, and that's why we're here. But just that precedent argument is a little, for me, circular. Because the president was said in one example, but I could probably go in my record and find 10 more that it wasn't. The president was, you have to demo the building. I remember what happened in St. Norbert recently, a couple of years ago with Brutal. So president, all land is different. And so I respect your comments on that. All land are different situations, and that's why we're here today, to take that content. I don't want to think just because one appeal committee made a decision that maybe not all council agreed with at the time, it doesn't really set a precedent per se. If I get to a precedent, it'd be what we've done majority of times, which is telling people to demo buildings. But I'm not saying I'm doing that today, but it's to try and clarify the argument.
No, thank you. I really respectfully, hear what you have to say, and I agree with much of it. If you don't like my circular precedent argument, perhaps you'll agree with one of the public policy arguments I have, and that'll win you over.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Harm and stuff. Sure. Okay. Thank you very much. But I just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Councillor Lukes.
So I appreciate your homework, Kasha, on all of this. There are larger lots throughout the city that are in the city, but are much larger lots. Having grown up rurally, I'm living on a lot that's with kids that are into cars and everything. I completely understand the garage and the safety and security. And I'll ask the public service this, maybe you found this in your research. It does seem a bit odd that we standardize the building size to a lot, whether it's a lot in Bridgewater or whether it's a lot on 5 acres. And I could be wrong on that. Do you have any comment on that? Is that what, and you may not have researched that, but.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I think what I'm understanding is you're saying that the 880 square foot requirement for the bylaw for structures applies to lots regardless of their size. And that's kind of what I understood as well. Perhaps that is a takeaway for another place and space beyond this appeal committee for review. Mm-hmm. But I agree that perhaps there needs to be a review of that size, because different properties have different needs. And I think that's why I understand that it seems that perhaps there's a little bit of quote unquote wiggle room and that perhaps structures of up to approximately 1,600 square feet get a little bit of leniency. But I think that this is perhaps something that requires some closer attention and review.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we've had no one else register in support of the appeal. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in support of the appeal? Seeing none, we've had no one register in opposition. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to the appeal? No one for information. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for information on the appeal? Seeing none, we can have questions for the administration.
So, yeah, so we have four buildings, quite a bit of square footage. And it looks like some of them are used mostly for storage. Two of them at least, storage, car parts, storage, garden, one a garage, and one, I'll use the term loosely, man cave, for the toys and to build and do the work and stuff like that. Probably has a hoist and all the goody stuff in there. Love to go see it. Well, maybe not today. We'll see how this goes. Is there another option for storage? Let's say they did a storage container, a roll bin type of stuff. Would that be counting as part of the square footage?
If it stays as a permanent structure on the site, yes, it would be. If it was temporary and it was going to be removed at some point in the future, then no.
So, and when you say sometime in the future, what does that mean?
Probably usually within 6 to 8 months. We do allow people to put those type of storage
Right,
bins on their property if they're
when they move it
renovating their
around
house
stuff.
to put everything in it while they renovate and then they put their furniture back in. So
Okay, great, thank you. No more questions for me.
Anybody else?
Okay, so just let's recap this. So then if we support the appeal, then basically he has to remove all 4 buildings.
no, just the 2 in question.
Oh, just the 2 in question, just the
Okay.
2 in question. Okay, so if we support the appeal. If we deny the appeal, then he pays the fees and goes about,
He obtains the permits and then
Permits.
the inspections. So as long as the buildings meet code.
so the buildings will have to meet code,
They
he
still
might
have
have to
to
make
meet-
adjustments
You
and
might
things
still
like
have to make
that.
adjustments there. We don't know yet because we
Sure.
haven't proceeded that far.
Sure,
Sorry, Counselor, just a quick point of clarification. If you allow the appeal,
Yeah.
the building.
Yeah,
permit.
yeah,
If you
okay.
deny the appeal.
right, got it, sorry. Backwards.
Okay.
Okay, wait, we have one more
Can you say
question.
That was, can you say it one more time, just so we're all on the same page, please?
So the appellant is the applicant on this file. So to allow the appeal would be to allow the buildings to remain.
To allow the appeal, yes. Yeah. All right.
So to my question about bigger lots and smaller lots and building sizes. Now you said you had sort of this sort of grace element where you allow a larger building, but there's nothing written up on that. That's purely just because you feel like doing it, or?
It's because we recognize that 880 is prohibitive on a 5-acre lot. They wouldn't have room to store their equipment just to maintain the property itself. So
Right.
short of vehicles and anything else. So that's why we have an unwritten precedence where about 1,600 to 1,700 we allow. So that gives them the adequate space they need for their needs.
So why, is this part of our zoning update or anything? Like, why wouldn't we, like, that's sort of a vague kind of.
It is, from my understanding, when we do the big zoning bylaw in 2026, this is going to be it.
And we'll look at,
It'll be looked at because of the sheer volume of variances that we are proceeding or having to proceed with, yes.
and what he put a variance up, what did he put the variance up for, the bigger building?
The variance we posted it because we appealed it, so the variance was for these 2 structures for their area and their height. Yeah.
Right.
It's really cool.
So you mentioned we're focusing on these 2 new buildings. Hypothetically, well, not hypothetically, I'll launch where I'm thinking. But if you got rid of 1 or 2 of the other buildings, the smaller, older ones, that's possible too.
Yeah, if you do, you can order today on the appeal order that
Give them a number of max.
you give them a square footage to comply with, and then they must,
2,200,
exactly,
400,
whatever it might be, and then they can come back and,
say, okay, we're gonna get rid of the 2 older buildings
or modify the size if
or
they,
modify the size,
Yep.
okay.
it'd be up to them to,
'Cause, yeah, that's the brand new building, oof, especially that 40 by 40, that's harsh. The other buildings look a little bit older. And my last question, and then there is I don't have a picture in the report. There are 3 pictures. Where's the 4th picture? I didn't see it in the report.
There's the picture of the site and then 3 pictures of the structures in question, or
Well, there's 4 structures in question.
the inspections. I used the pictures from the inspectors that because the site is so forested, I didn't want to trespass to obtain information. So I used the pictures of my colleagues, the inspectors that have been on site. So those are
But no
their,
one took a picture of the
no one took it.
storage beside the house.
No, because it wasn't in question. They only took pictures of
But
the,
it kind of is in question. Because it makes up the whole,
it makes up the whole, correct?
so kind of should have an idea on that, but I'll ask them when they come back up on that one. Okay, thank you. Good, my friend.
Any other questions, Councillor Shire?
No, I'm ready to move a motion.
No,
not
they
yet.
get a chance to
They're
come
gonna
back.
back.
They get a chance to
Open
come back.
mind.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
We'll call back the appellant.
Yeah, at this time, we can call the appellant forward to speak in rebuttal to comments made. You'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation. Just note, no new information is permitted.
Yeah, I'm all back up, my friend.
You can respond to anything that's been said.
I don't have much to add. Just you know, my boys, we do have a larger family, so that's why some of the garages are used for their vehicles too. My one boy, he likes to rebuild quads and stuff. It's helped him through school a lot. He's actually achieved his level 1 mechanics. My older boy has actually got his red seal in heavy duty, and it's all because of what we do at the place.
So do you have a copy of the administrative report in front of you?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so figure 1 shows a building with, looks like a fairly low ceiling height, maybe 12, 14 feet.
Yeah.
It's got one overhead door that is there. It looks like it's got some sort of building wrap on it. And then it looks like what might be a space for another garage door. It has just, looks like it's plywood over it.
Yeah, that one's just storage. That's all my storage for the car park.
Now,
and stuff.
is that one of the buildings in question or
Yes,
is that?
that's one of the buildings.
So that's 20 by 40?
That's the 20 by 40.
And that was built, that's the newest of the buildings.
That is the newest one of them all, yeah. The only reason why I built that building is I didn't think my operators appreciate to have all like stuff outside, and it's like they got transmissions and engines and various stuff like that, and
Okay.
brake lights and
So
stuff.
figure 2 looks like it's the high ceiling one. That's the 40 by 40 and that was built in like 2006, 2008 timeframe.
Yeah, yes.
And there's a building on the left there. There looks like there's some,
That building
Tires
was
stored
there
outside.
that building was built in the 60s.
okay. So it's one of the pre-existing buildings. And
Yes,
then,
sir.
okay, then figure 3, that's the same building there with the tires on the side. I see. So the other building that we don't see is one of the other original buildings.
It's in the very front of the house. It's the one that's right beside the house.
Okay.
If you see I made a drawing.
I see. Yeah, there's a 3 together and then there's one by the house.
Yeah.
I see that. 20
And
by
that's the
20.
one my wife parks her car in and keeps all
Yeah.
her decent or
Gotcha.
stuff in. I'm gonna say crap, but you know, well, no, they're good stuff. Good stuff in
Yard materials, yes.
Yeah.
Understood.
Stuff and things.
it.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, any other thing you want to comment on?
No, just I'm definitely willing to fix up some of the older structures for sure, but removing them, it's like that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm definitely willing to fix up whatever I need to fix up. And just, you know, my big garage, when you asked about permits and stuff like that, the code, that garage was built right to code and I have all the stuff to it, so I can, when I do, if you guys do approve it, I can, definitely have everything up to code for sure. Like I said, it already passed the electrical permit code, that building.
Okay.
Thanks.
Councilor Elko, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. And you touched on the end. I know you don't want to do it. You really just want to keep everything. And understandable completely. It works for you, works for your boys, works for your family. But you're really over. You're really, really over the square foot, even the 1,600. You're so far over. So I can tell you where I'm leaning and I want your opinion on it. I'm leaning and I'm giving a max and I don't care what 4 buildings you deal with. I may not pass and the committee may decide otherwise. But I'm looking at giving you a max square footage. It's probably maybe even above the 1,600. But that means you're gonna have to get rid of a building or 2. And I would assume it'd be the older ones. And you have to maybe do off-site storage or something for that. And so I want you to, maybe you can reply to that, why the hardship and, because that's where I'm leaning, but
Well, removal of buildings is definitely gonna cost some money for sure, and offsite storage is definitely expensive. Yeah, like, and those buildings are already there, My neighbors don't have an issue with them at all.
Okay.
Like it's not an issue for the surrounding area. And if you drive down my road, there's many people that have way larger structures than I do, way larger.
Yeah, and again, if you want to make a complaint about them, we'll go look at it. I know you don't, I know you.
I'm never gonna complain about my neighbors. I don't
Just
complain
say-
about my road. I don't complain about
You brought
anything.
up, you brought up your neighbor, so I just say.
Yeah,
I-
no, I'm just
trying to
I'm,
explain
I'm not trying to set a precedent. I'm just letting you know that I'm not impacting anybody in any harmful way having these buildings there.
But
It is not impacting the environment. It's not impacting me. I have more trees than anybody lot on my property, anybody on the entire Fraser Road.
that's, I just, that's, thank you for your answer.
Thank you, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. That's it for me? Yep.
Oh,
you're
sorry,
good.
yeah, you're good.
Thank you.
I can see what we're gonna do.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so at this time, it would be time for motions.
You wanna do this one or am I gonna start? I love being the guy who does this.
I'll do it, but I don't think you and I agree.
That's okay.
So it's gonna get complicated if you do, but go ahead.
We're gonna do that. Okay, so we're already starting to.
Maybe
Okay.
friendly amendments,
So-
so you know what you wanna do too.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out an option here, see if people go with it, and I am open to listening to the rest of the committee. So first of all, the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Receipt of public representations be concluded.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
That in accordance with subsection 2473, the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is not consistent with Pine Winnipeg and Applicatory Second Plan. B, does create a substantial adverse effect on amenities, use, safety, convenience, adjoining property, adjacent area, including area separated by property by a street or a waterway. Is not the minimum modification of zoning bylaw required to release injurious effects on the zoning bylaw of the applicant's property and is not compatible with the area in which the property is effectively situated. That's root stuff. And I'm not sure how I proceed with this. But you know, I'm willing definitely to give the gentleman for the very well presented arguments some grace, even above the 1600. You know, could even be 22, the two old buildings, could maybe throw in the third building. But again, it's just so far bigger than we allow in our bylaws. And of course, the bylaws need to be changed. If someone wants to do that, that's fine. But we are today with a bylaw that was unfortunately not adhered to. Permits weren't taken out in the right order. So we have to be at least, we can't just ignore our bylaws. We can amend them a bit, but this is a lot of amending. So I think there has to be a little bit of some of the older buildings. I can see the 40 by 40. That's again, we talked about today. That already is the grace period at 1,600 square feet. That's pretty well, they're already there with that one. The new building of 800 square feet, you know, you're already at, you know, it's what, 2,400 square feet, which is way above the 800 square feet, 880 or 1,600 we want to look at. So that's already, those two buildings alone max out. Now, if the committee wanted to look at a third building of 550 square feet, fine. But again, there has to be a little bit of adherence to the bylaw. So I wouldn't say I agree with approving the appeal, but I would be amenable to looking at something about, whatever, 2,500 square feet. And then they're going to have to make some adjustments for all those four buildings, which they believe they can do or not do. But I think we have to have some adherence to the bylaws. So does that work for you?
Just one brief point of clarification. If we are going to be allowing a variance, we would have to do in the affirmative.
Okay, then the affirmative.
Okay.
Sorry, but I was wrong on that. So it is consistent, does not create, is minimum modification, is compatible with the area. But with the proviso there that it's, I'll be amenable to 2,300 square feet, 24. This is looking at the numbers, 16 plus 8, 24. And I'll let I'll stop at 2,400 square feet. But if the committee wants to look at the other two structures, which equal about 1,700 square feet extra on top of that, I'll let the committee look at that.
I was looking at Councillor Orlico, according to city tax, the two original fully permitted structures were 563 and 528.
Correct.
And then I was thinking allowing the 40 by 40, which is
Right.
1,600, so that comes out to 2,691, so up to 2,700 square feet or something was, and three structures was.
Yep.
what I was kind of,
Same kind of ballgame. I don't care what structures they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know the 40 by 40, that would, that'd be rough. Again, I'd say lay down a number of whatever numbers he wants, whatever buildings he chooses to modify. He may be able to cut a building in half even, but I'll leave that to the proponent.
Okay, I need some clarification here. I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not voting with Councillor Orlico on this one.
Okay.
Having said that, was Councillor Orlico adding an amendment?
Yeah.
Within this?
Yeah, 20.
All right, and so the amendment, we were thus voting on the amendment first to the motion?
he's
or
proposing
is
a
it
motion, he's proposing a motion to,
With the amendment in it.
with the motion in it.
All right, are we, and then so my.
Well, right now, his motion was at 2,300 square feet or
Let's see, 18, 24, 27.
2,700?
27, because that just means at least there's some pain. And it could modify, just leaves one building stored somewhere else.
Okay. Councillor Luke, did you have any?
I want to hear what he has to say. Are you saying something?
Sure, but supporting reasons for how I'm going to vote, not supporting reasons for the motion that's presented.
What could you opinion?
Sure.
We're not voting yet.
And it is uncomfortable. That's why we heard these are uncomfortable circumstances, these appeals. And yeah, this is a notch to be here dealing with this appeal. It has got what it takes to be an uncomfortable situation and an appeal and sort of in the gray area. Most of these are 60-40 in this case, but in this case, when I have to interpret, in this case, given the vast amount of acreage, I interpret our sizes to do with densities and how much we can take spatially and visually, and it is a function of the amount of area as well that we're dealing with. In this case, it is unusual circumstances. I'm uncomfortable with it, but we're talking about 5 acres, and we are talking about a footprint in context of the lot and neighboring lots that is just not within the realm of consideration in terms of proportion to the property, even the frontage. And as uncomfortable as this is, and we deal with these things all the time, I'm essentially okay with the Agers footprint. Because I truly believe that when we create these limitations, which are right in our bylaws, that whether we know it or not, they are created because they're still within a function of standard urban limitations of size that this doesn't apply to in this case. And therefore, since it's here, we're here at appeal, I'm here, it is my prerogative to interpret it. And I interpret this, given the way they're placed, their size, in context of the neighborhood. It's an unusual neighborhood for the city of Winnipeg, and given 100% support in the petition, putting this all together, as unfortunate as this is, I think the bylaws to be upheld may mean they have to pay their fines.
Thank you.
But the variance is separate from that.
Fair enough.
All right, I'm going to be,
I'm supporting the Agers, and again, once again, I'm supporting the appeal.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to be supporting the motion moved forward by Councillor Orlico. Again, you need to take out permits for these things. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that in an urban area like this, that these things are required. I think we're being more than generous by allowing, a massive structure that's, basically double the size that's allowed, that 1,600 square foot, 40 by 40 facility to potentially be maintained, again, up to the discretion of the applicant appellant, based on the what Councillor Orlico had indicated in his motion. I would think that, if we're going to be seeing more of these going forward, that there should be provisions to ensure that there is no quote unquote reward for trying to get away without doing a permit. Like, again, what about the back taxes? Like, if this has existed since 2006, 2008, a 1,600 square foot facility like that adds value to the property. It's not listed on city tax. It's not fed through the mass appraisal system. he's basically gotten off tax-free on that portion since 2006, 2008, and that's simply not right. So as part of it, I think removing, limiting and lowering the amount of space, I think is appropriate. There should be a consequence for for not following process here. So I know it's a bitter pill to swallow, but I think that's what we do need to do today to send a strong message to everyone.
So the motion is for how many square feet?
Up to 2,700 square feet.
Up to 2,700 square feet,
In theory, that will allow the two grandfathered
right?
second structures plus up to the 40 by 40, 1,600 square foot structure.
yeah.
Or some combination thereof, but
Right. Okay, so I will support the motion put forward also. I really look forward to the zoning update because these are very unique properties. 5 acres is an awful large size and you need a lot of equipment to maintain 5 acres of property. So it's a difficult situation in that it's a very large property. But I think because Mr. Ager knew that at one point, I mean, he did take out a permit for electrical. I did think he was aware that he should have maybe continued on and taken out a permit for the building permit. That kind of I think he dropped the ball on that to the point where he's got off not paying taxes for quite a while on this. I do think that, and looking at the conditions of the buildings, that maybe one of those buildings, it's kind of time for it to retire and they could rearrange. A purge is a good thing. So I will be supporting the motion of, because you made the motion up to 2,700 square feet.
okay.
Okay?
May I make any further comments?
Yes,
Sure. I think when it comes to permits should have been pulled, yes, that's what fines are for. And in terms of taxes, yes, to the extent the city was aware of this stuff, the city should be taxing things as is the city's convention and regulation. I think we're here not for deciding whether they should be fined. I'll say for the record, I think one should be fined for when one does not follow these regulations if the city thinks so. I'm here to make a decision on a variance. And I'm not going to use the variance as a punishment for not being fined or taxed. And so I'm going to look at it this way. That's my perspective. That's my bias. I was raised on 5 acres, or ironically, I think it was 4.9. But what can I say? It is unusual acreage to which one was their lifestyle.
thank you, Councillor. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Nay.
Support it?
Okay,
That's it, sir. That's it.
and then you move that the appeal.
You guys allow a 4,000 square foot building in Liberty, but you'll allow like 1,600 square foot.
Order. So it's reminder, but you had Councillor, there's no more motions you need to make.
Thank you, Councilor. What's your name?
No, sorry, we don't have calls. Yeah, sorry about that.
Meeting still under,
So it would be that the appeal
You'll
be
be allowed in part.
the decision of the director not concurred and amended. So item 1, delete 3480 and replace with 2700.
Correct.
And the variance order be canceled.
And the variance already be canceled.
all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Consider the Director of Public Planning, Property Development, not be concurred in.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Public hearings respectfully concluded.
All's in favor? Opposed, carried.
Councillor Schreier, were you in opposition to those as well?
Yes.
Do we have time for another one?
I think we have to recess at 11:30, you said?
I have to at 11:30.
11:30, okay.
Yeah, so we got, yeah, keep on.
Item 2 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a variance for 722 Moncton Avenue under file DAV 111-029A/2024C. Members of the committee, please note additional communications were received in opposition to the appeal, which have been distributed to all members. All participants have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. Here. Once you have been heard, you can either remain in the Zoom meeting or leave and continue to watch live via the city's YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute your audio player now. I'll turn it over to the member of the administration for a brief overview.
The property is located on the south side of Moncton Avenue between London Street and Gray Street in the Monroe East neighborhood of the Elmwood East Kildonan ward. It is designated an established neighborhood mature communities policy area under Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0, and it is zoned R1M residential single family medium district. The applicant has proposed splitting the lot per the underlying lot lines to create two 24-foot wide by 100-foot deep lots. The applicant is proposing a two-story detached single-family dwelling on each lot. And the submitted plans show each proposed development, including 4 shrubs and 1 medium tree. No existing trees will be maintained. The plan shows that the proposed detached single-family dwellings will each have a 3-foot setback oriented towards each other and a 4-foot setback oriented towards the existing abutting properties. The reversal for this, or the reason for this reversal of the side yards is because there is currently a non-conforming sewer pipe running through the center of the property. The applicant intends to relocate the pipe straight to the center of the property to accommodate the development and ensure the proposed new single-family dwellings are each offset from that pipe by a minimum of 4 feet. For this reason, the Urban Planning and Design Division has placed a condition requiring 4-foot side yards between the 2 new buildings and 3-foot side yards between the new and the existing neighboring properties. In addition to the required setbacks, a condition requiring no structure to be permitted in the required setbacks is also being applied to protect that pipe. The Urban Planning and Design Division recommends approval of the subject proposal because it is consistent with the policies of our Winnipeg and Complete Communities 2.0. That concludes my summary of the proposal. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So I still gotta get my head around this. What's the appeal for?
I believe the appeal is from a resident elsewhere on the block who is opposed to the lot split. It's not related to the sewer pipe.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the appellants, I got confused by the address. It doesn't show their address. And therefore, I thought it was the other address and I didn't understand. Okay, so there's no address given for the appellants.
That's correct.
All right,
We don't include them in the online
all right,
postings.
all right. Just
So it's not the pipe that's the issue, it's the lot split that's the appeal?
Yeah, the pipe has nothing to do with the appeal, but it's a major component of the fact that they have 3-foot setbacks instead of 4-foot setbacks to the neighbors. The only way to explain that is to go through the pipe component
And the pipe is causing that.
relocating the pipe to the center of the property. Exactly. That's why they have to have those reduced side yards.
One of the complaints from the appellant is in relation to the fact of the back lane. Is it a paved back lane or a gravel back?
It's a paved back lane.
Paved. Not necessarily very good. Fair. Okay.
There's that gray area.
Paved with air quotes. Okay. All right. I have no other questions. Ready for the appellant, I guess. Yeah.
So the appellants have not registered to speak today. And we've had no one registered to speak in support of this appeal. Just for the record, is there anyone here who would like to speak in support of this appeal? Seeing none, we can move to those in opposition to the appeal. We have the applicant on the file, which is Aman Satcher. He is joining us via Zoom. Aman, if you'd like to unmute and turn on your camera, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
There we go. Good morning, guys. Hopefully everybody is doing good. I have a quick presentation for this property. I'll pull it up. Share screen. I'm just trying to get it full screen. Just hold on a second, please.
You in full screen.
Okay, I'll start then. My name is Aman and I'm presenting for 722 Moncton Avenue. I'll go quickly through the background of the property and then address the appeal. So this property is located in Infill Guidelines Area 1. It's in a quiet neighborhood in East Kildonan. It's about 2 minutes walk to the Monroe Shopping Center, 2 minute walk to Ecole Salisbury School, and then 8 minutes walks to Sherwood and Concordia Hospital. New families are looking for affordable homes in these kind of neighborhood. The current house on the property is in horrible shape. When I first saw the picture on Google Maps, it seemed to be doing okay, but after a while, it seemed to be sagging in through the middle. The foundation's got big issues, a lot of cracking, as you can see here. It's built in 1914. It's 600 square feet old house, and it needs to be replaced. So we're proposing 2 lots of 2,500 square foot. And there's quite a few lots already that's been split on Moncton Avenue. I have a few examples of the successful lot splits in the neighborhood. This one's on, they're all on Moncton. So this one's being built, this one's successfully built already. And these ones are a couple older, 680 and 570, 678. And these two are being built as well. Here's the timeline of when the previous lot splits were built. Talking about our design. So we're proposing 2 lots, 2,500 square foot. Both lots are going to have 4 shrubs, 1 new tree, and sod coverage of about 35%. We also have 2 parking in the back lane. So that makes 4 parking total. Regarding the tree loss, I'll address it quickly. There's 2 group of trees here and here. I think in total we have about 8 trees on the property. That's multi-stemmed trees. So there's 4 trees in the back and 4 trees where the new house is going to be. And we'll be replacing those trees with 2 new trees. I understand that the environmental impact is huge, so we're open to adding more trees to our properties. But we kept it right now as 1 just because that's what meets the infill guidelines and it's much easier to maintain. House design, we have 1,465 square feet, 2-story homes with secondary suite. Secondary suite supports density and multi-generational living. We have high quality architectural features, batten board on the white house with the acrylic stucco, and then hardy board on the left house with acrylic stucco as well. I think they look beautiful, but you guys can judge for that. We have big windows in the front as well. Both the homes and the lot are infill guidelines compliant. Given the example previously, the architectural style of the new homes matches the style of the neighborhood. So we made sure of that when we were designing the house. We did do a lot of public consultation here. So we were here about 3-4 times. We gave out letters to the 3 properties affected by the non-conforming sewer line, and those owners did not have any issues. Other neighbors I spoke to, they wanted the current house to be demolished because it's in horrible shape. It doesn't attract the right people, I would say. And the neighbor on the left side, he had a few concerns regarding the furnace vent, the AC vent. So we moved the furnace to the back of the property. And then we also switched our plan so there's no window facing his property as he requested to. It kind of lined up good in fact because our windows are facing inside and there's no windows on the neighboring property. A couple neighbors were wondering about the landscaping and trees because there's quite a few trees. So we let them know we'll be landscaping it fully and sod will be planted and finished with the wooden fence. These properties are to be sold after they're done construction, not kept as rental properties. So I'll just address the appeal now. This is the public back lane in the rear. I took this picture on May 19th after 4 days of heavy rainfall. And I'll zoom in a bit. It's a concrete back lane. It's in really good condition compared to other back lanes I've been to. I don't see any issue with this. So I'll just show the data for May 2024. So this is May 14th, 15th, May 14th to 18th. We have quite a bit of heavy rainfall. And this picture was taken May 19th, so there's no water accumulating in the back. There's pictures of other infill homes and the back lane on Mountain Avenue. As you can see, there's no water accumulating in the back of those either. This was taken May 19th as well. There was one more concern regarding the sewer and water service on Mountain Avenue, and we checked with Water and Waste Department. They do not have any issues. So conclusion for the appeal, the existing home must be replaced, replacing the trees with 2 new Delta hackberry trees. The concrete back lane is in very good condition. There's no water collecting in the back lane. There's no concern from Water and Waste Department regarding the extra families that will be added on Mountain. And neighboring property value increases with infill development. Concluding statements. The plan adheres to Plan Winnipeg's construction guidelines and zoning bylaw. The proposed variances to the lot width and lot area standards of the Winnipeg zoning bylaw is based on the proposal meeting the preferred location criteria. And all of the required site and design guidelines, we're meeting all of them for the infill guidelines. This infill development minimizes the spatial land use and provides a large range of housing options for the neighborhood. It's positive for the community. We'll be constructing 2 new homes and new families will be added. We'll maintain the property and provide a fresh start for the property. The properties are to be sold after the construction, so families living in the home, they tend to take care of the home, the property. So that's what we're hoping for. And neighborhood harmony, there's nothing to suggest that the development of 2 properties will be negatively affecting the back lane. So we're not causing any adverse effects on the existing surrounding properties. That's all for my presentation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Questions, Councilor Orlando?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for reaching out to the neighbors. That's a great part about this process, that we developers need to reach out to the neighborhoods. Don't have to, but it's encouraged strongly. So I do thank you for that. And also thank you for accommodating some of the concerns about the furnaces and answering some of the questions about landscaping. So thank you very much, Matt. That takes a little bit of extra work, I know, but it does help allow for community harmony. So appreciate that very much. You've mentioned a couple of things. I just want to clarify. You plan to include a secondary suites, I gather, in the basement?
Yes, sir.
They matter, but they'll be internal to the house, not external. There's no garage I see anywhere, so you're looking at just doing internal. Okay, want to make sure of that. I do look at the property on my little Googly map thing here, so techie now. But you know, those are gorgeous trees, especially the one on the side of the house. Explain to me why you couldn't, keep them. Keep at least 1 or 2 of the big mature trees rather than, I say, yeah, go back to your map, be great. Where was that thing?
I wish I had a pic.
There you are, you're getting there closer, feeling it. What was there?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, not the back lane ones, yeah, same thing, back lane ones, and yeah, just maybe go through why you couldn't keep them, because they are beautifully old trees.
Yes, I do want to keep some of them if we can. This one, it's hard to see from here, but these group of trees, they're kind of centered to the parking. They're not as to the side of the property as they seem, so they will interfere with the future parking. And then this, there's some multi-stem trees on where the house is gonna be. So there's two groups of trees, one where the house is gonna be and one where the future parking is gonna be, sir.
So you mentioned, and again, I thank you for that, and again, this is why I like this process, because here we are, we have to address trees. So in this trees, you mentioned that you'd be willing, if the committee decided to ask you to do so, to add maybe one or two more trees. Do you know where you'd be able to put those?
If we do add them, we're probably adding them to the front of the property.
Yeah. That's fair enough. That's all just a roundabout where we're thinking.
Yes, somewhere about here, like in the center front of the property.
Okay, yeah, so two, whatever you position, that's fine. You have two parking or four parking pads, I guess, two big ones, whatever. Four parking pads in the back. Is that gravel or concrete?
We left it open for now, but probably gravel, but it's open for now.
So if the committee decides, hey, you know what, we kind of like and that is a stunning back lane. I'm sorry, like I could show you about 80% of the back lane of River Heights where not even close to that. And usually when we have nice gravel paved back lanes, we don't want gravel going on them all over the time. Neighbors get very upset, usually dust, and it just creates mess. So would you be amenable to either concrete or some type of more permeable surface?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Shire?
So, it's going to be 4 feet between the two, proposed new houses? Space.
That's correct. I think I have this picture backwards. This lot is supposed to be here.
Pardon me?
I have this site plan a little bit backwards, but yes, sir, 4 feet in between the two homes.
4 feet in between the two new proposed homes and 3 feet on either other side. Where we were dealing with, was it the sewer pipe? Where, to your knowledge, sir, where does that play into these things?
Sir, so we had a licensed city registered sewer and water contractor come out and provide locates for the sewer pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on the left side of the lot right now.
On the left side of the lot, is that the east side, the west side, looking at this. So are we facing west? The top is west on this? The top west, right?
I'm not too good with cardinal directions, to be honest, but from the front, it's towards the left side of the lot. Like there's two lots, so left one and right one. It's more towards the left. So we have to relocate it about 6-7 feet to get it to the center of the two lots.
Page 10 of the report shows where it's highlighted in yellow where the pipe is.
Okay, excuse me, I'm facing south. I just assumed that was north. All right then.
I have a picture here for it's about here.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Hear none? Okay,
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, thanks.
thank you very much.
So also in opposition to the appeal is Paul Sakan. Paul, I'm just going to ask you to unmute and turn on your camera, and you'll have up to 10 minutes to speak after you state your name.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Sakan. I didn't have much to say. I was more listening in, and I can provide any additional information that might be required. As Amin was saying, we did have a licensed city water and sewer contractor off of the city website come out and take a look. So we've had the lines traced, as well as his expert opinion as to what to do for resolving the non-conforming water line. So it was his recommendation to do the side yards the way that we had requested them. And that would provide us the best ability to cause the least disruption to everybody while correcting this issue and allowing two houses to be built. The current house is in very bad condition. It is city assessed for about $146,000. So our proposal is to give two families a house, potentially even four families if they wanted to instead of that one. Did you guys have any other questions or thoughts?
Great.
Anybody?
No.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that concludes those registered in opposition. Just to confirm, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we had no one register for information. Just to confirm, is there anyone here to speak for information? Seeing none, at this time, we can have questions for the administration.
None.
Okay, motions?
Does anyone?
We should give the, or sorry, there is no appellate today. Here in the clerk.
All right, I'll move that the report of Manitoba Public Service be taken as read.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All's carried?
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All's carried?
I move that in accordance with subsection 247(3) of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent on Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan. Does not create, therefore I'm going against the appeal. Right, in favor of the appeal. B, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property in an adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway. Is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated? My supporting reasons. Yeah, again, it is worthy of an appeal because there is a request for variance. Therefore, it's just to appeal that because it's not part of the bylaws, it's a request for variance. However, we have established conventions here in terms of, there's a pattern of allowing for variances. It's been going on for a long time. And more throughout my time, for the last decade and more to come. However, as Councilor Orlico says, we've got bylaws now. We've got our development plan now. That could change any time, but this is where we're at. Now, having said that, this type of variance is rather consistent. Everyone is different. And you've got to weigh them each individually. But I believe this is consistent with the variances we've been allowing in the city and in this neighborhood. Having said that, I understand that you get too many variances, and you end up with the neighborhood of Glenwood, in which the neighbors, I can see why the neighbors would be concerned over the development in a short space of time. It's not exactly like that here. Although there is development, but I would have to say that the development is essentially inevitable, and is natural and is in accordance with either, a pattern for variances or our move towards density, which I've been essentially supporting since my first day on council. And on that basis, I think the development is essentially fair.
Okay. All's in favor?
Question.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if it's in a friendly amendment, and I'm gonna look at actually with the area councillor to decide if he wants to add those parts. Which would be paved parking pad. Maybe the neighborhoods are fine with it, and I'll leave that to you. But again, some of the applications we've done, especially on a paved back lane that's in good shape, we've asked the developer to pave the parking pad. And The other one is to ask them to add one more tree. But
Per lot?
per lot, yeah, if you had two, that'd be great. It'd be a smaller shrubbery, like a fruit tree, it's not a full grown.
A shrubbery.
It's like a choke cherry tree rather than an 80-footer, the big elm trees, but if that's up to you, area councillor.
No, I like.
If you want that, those two, they seem to be okay with it.
If that,
Otherwise-
if that, was understood by the clerk, I would gladly include that as a friendly amendment.
So just the rear parking locations be paved as a condition, and then what were the specific?
One more tree per lot.
One more tree per lot, okay.
Now, is that added to the next motion though?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, so your supporting reasons are there, Councillor Shire, and then there's the Plan Winnipeg or our Winnipeg alignment. We'll vote on that first.
Oh, Joanna.
Morning. All those, okay, all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed, carried. Then, Councillor Shire, you move that the appeal be
I move that the appeal be
Allowed in part.
allowed in part. And therefore it's gonna go to, oh, I guess that's it, allowed in part.
Mhm.
And thus, I didn't say anything with BAV.
So the order would be canceled because we're amending it.
Okay, and DAV 111029/2024C be canceled.
okay, all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed, carried.
I move that the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development be
Concurred in with the following.
Concurred in with the following amendments that the rear parking locations be paved and that one additional tree be planted per lot.
as said by the clerk.
Very good, all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed, carried.
And I move that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
All those in favor,
Aye.
opposed, carried. Okay. No, just a housekeeping matter here, Mr. Clerk. Item number 4 is not going to be dealt with today.
That is correct. It would need to be adjourned to the next meeting on June 12th.
Okay,
Oh, good last.
and now Councillor Lukes, you have to leave at what time?
11:30 to 1 o'clock.
11:30 to 1 o'clock. Pardon me?
We have one more left.
We have one more left, so why don't, are you okay if we deal with it without, in your absence? Because I've got till noon. I've got to be,
Okay.
I've got to be out of here by
Okay.
noon, so,
You wanna
or if I'm late, I'll be late, but I'd rather not
Okay,
be,
so
but,
I have an 11:30 that I thought I have to do.
yeah.
We have to be back.
So why don't you, right, so rather than start this hearing, we'll.
Okay, all right.
This is good.
Okay, all right.
You can enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. All right. So then no back, this is it.
Not for you.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so move on to item number 3 then.
Item 3 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a variance for 94 Cathedral Avenue under file DAV 113586A/2024C. Members of the committee, please note additional communications were received in support of and in opposition to the appeal, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. All participants have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. Once you have been heard, you can either remain in the Zoom meeting or leave and continue to watch live via the city's YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute your audio player now. I'll turn it over to a member of the administration to provide a brief summary.
Thank you. The Public Service has approved a lot area variance to establish 2 residential lots at 94 Cathedral, subject to 9 standard conditions. This site is located on the south side of Cathedral Avenue between Emsley Street and St. Cross Street in the St. John's Park neighborhood of the Minarski Ward. The site falls within the Mature Communities Policy Area under Complete Communities and is zoned R2 residential 2-family located within Area 2 of the infill guidelines. Location criteria. The property is approximately 50 feet wide and 126 feet deep. If you're looking at iView, it still looks like it's 75 feet wide. However, that was subject to a subdivision in 2021, approved at appeals then. So it's the 2 left side lots under assessment data that you'll see, lots 9 and 10 that are subject to this application. So the existing structure on the property, I'll note, is a 2-story single-family dwellings built in 1894, the Polson House. It is on the city's commemorative list of historical resources, but does not have historical designation and will be demolished. Because the building straddles the previously subdivided lot 8 and existing lot 9, which is part of this application, it cannot be maintained as a result of that also. The subject application would split, as mentioned, lots 9 and 10, and the applicant is proposing to establish on each of the 3 lots, because he now owns lot 8 as well, 2-story single-family dwelling, oh, pardon me, this is just 2 sites, lots 9 and 10, a 2-story single-family dwelling with a secondary suite on each lot. The drawings show that the proposed buildings would be about 43 feet long, 18 feet wide, clad with a mix of high-quality materials, and they're providing a variety of plantings, including 2 trees and 4 shrubs on each site. Overall, the applicant has proposed a design that meets all of the required design guidelines for the proposed housing type. Water and waste has confirmed servicing capacity for the proposed development. And given that the proposal aligns with Complete Communities direction strategy policies and meets both the infill guidelines preferred location criteria and the design guidelines, the Urban Planning and Design Division supports the requested variance.
All right, Councillor Shine.
Okay, so the house has to go?
It does have to go because it's straddling a subdivided lot.
Okay. That's a beautiful house. Eh?
It's really fallen into disrepair, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, and so it's 50 feet wide, the lot, combined lot is 50 feet?
Lots 9 and 10 together are 50 feet wide, yes.
And there's been a previous lot separation on one side?
Yes, so lot 8, which is on the east side.
Which is on the east side, yeah, okay. And it's going to, and so the proposed buildings, proposed residential units are going to be 18 feet wide?
Yes.
Last appeal, we were told how much space is going to be on either side of the buildings. Can you tell us in this case?
Oh, yes. So, oh, yeah, that detail handy. I will double check.
Emotion.
Oh, geez, let me get to, as I said, I didn't have everything laid out quite as nicely. Last minute here. Thank you. It should be 4 foot in the exterior side yards and 3 feet in the interior side yards.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh, I guess the question, back lane is?
It's paved.
The back lane.
Yes.
Right. Okay, we'll call forward the appellant.
Okay, the appellant has indicated they wouldn't be able to make it today, but has provided a submission that has been distributed. So with that, we can move on to those in support of the appeal. Brooke Jones, if you'd like to come forward, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation after you state your name. Support of the appeal, support.
Hi, good morning, Chair Brody, Councilors Oroco and Schreier, and members of the Winnipeg Public Service. I'm Brooke Jones. And just to clarify, I do support the appeal not to demolish and not to establish the 2 subdivided divided lots. I'm a lifelong resident of Winnipeg and more specifically Fort Garry. Over the years, I thought I knew every corner of the city and our historical sites. I only became recently aware of 94 Cathedral Avenue, more commonly known as Polson House or Luxton Home. 2 years ago, I started attending St. John's Anglican Cathedral, just down the road from 94 Cathedral, and I'm now a member of Vestry. I'm now becoming more familiar with the area of St. John's and learning more about this particular area of our city. Even though this area of Winnipeg, even though I've been in Winnipeg my entire life, I still wasn't aware of this particular location. Since I'm learning more about this particular home and that it could face demolition, I've been speaking with family and friends about it. And honestly, everyone I've spoken to is not familiar with 94 Cathedral and its historical significance, even though it's on the commemorative list within the city of Winnipeg. It has been said that the home has been neglected regarding its physical stature, repairs. I can see that with respect to its, when I drove by the other day, to look at the home from the front and from the back lane. It's just remarkable, the architecture, 130 years old. And the spindles on the roof, the peaks and that sort of thing. I'm not an architect or an engineer, but from my initial view of this home, I was just awestruck by it. And I would like to know more information in terms of what are some of the options, if it could be save the cost, the technical aspect of this to keep this gem in Winnipeg. You hear about, I read about stories of this home in its early days going back to the early 1900s. It was heartwarming to learn that Jesse Polson did fundraising work for the cathedral in 1911. And Polson's son started a radio station at the home in 1911. So often we think of historical buildings, unique characters to Winnipeg in terms of its physical appearance, but there's also a personal aspect to these historical sites throughout our city. When I think of Winnipeg and its identity, first and foremost, it's the people that come to the forefront of my mind. It's Winnipeg's heritage, its historical nature that makes up the culture and what makes Winnipeg stand out in across Canada and throughout North America. It truly is the people and its historical character. I'll just share a quick story. Back in grade 12 at Vincent Massey Collegiate, my family hosted Japanese exchange students. We took them on a double-decker bus tour throughout the city when the double-decker buses were around. Assiniboine Park, St. Boniface Cathedral. Afterwards, we hopped on the paddle wheel. We explored Winnipeg not only sort of by land, but also the waterways. We were very much aware of historical buildings such as Government House, the Manitoba Legislative Building, the former Hudson's Bay Company downtown, Fort Garry Hotel, the Millennium Center, and the list goes on. I can also think of Holy Trinity Church. It's been in the news recently regarding this significant building, and that it's also in need of foundation repair and financial assistance. The other day I was at a gathering and I heard of Westminster United Church, another gem in Winnipeg, and it also needs support for repairs. Winnipeg is definitely an old city in Western Canada with aging infrastructure, not only regarding streets, water lines and wastewater infrastructure, but also our historical buildings. Our infrastructure is aging, as well as our historical landmarks. Polson House also reminds me of Riel House, the building that houses the St. James Museum. Councillor Orrico, just down the road from his ward, I'm sure many of you recall that old character home on Wellington Crescent, which was torn down a couple of years ago. Another gem in our neighborhood. I also think of buildings such as that houses the Seven Oaks Museum, the St. Boniface Museum as well, and the Seven Oaks Museum, the St. Vital Museum. Similar in nature, but all historical, and tells the story of Winnipeg. Recently, last weekend, Doors Open Winnipeg. What a wonderful concept by Heritage Winnipeg to have the opportunity to visit these sites. Wouldn't it be remarkable to have this location at 94 Cathedral on that list of Doors Open Winnipeg? Again, I state that the components that make up our city are not only our people, but the quality of life is measured by other aspects. We have public parks, open spaces, green spaces, libraries. They not necessarily bring in revenue in the sense of tax dollars, but they add to the quality of our life every day. And when I drove down the back lane there at 94 Cathedral, what a wonderful backyard, much larger than I expected. Wouldn't that make a great pocket park? You know, if there's some way to preserve the character home in that green space instead of subdividing it with two infill homes. Winnipeg is truly a gateway to the West. Many firsts in Western Canada started in Winnipeg. Not too far down the road from here, just a little ways north on Main Street, was the oldest theater in Western Canada. And it's too bad only after the fact that when they tore down the building on Main Street between Logan and Higgins there, that I learned that it was the oldest theater in Western Canada. So often we're losing these gems, and it'd be nice to be able to have the opportunities to preserve them in some way. Just across the street, I attended Red River College many years ago. The second year that campus opened, wonderful to see that facade preserved. Unfortunately, the behind the facade wasn't able to be saved, but they incorporated the facade with a newer building. So often we measure things in dollars and cents and what our rate of return is. Public spaces may not be in terms of monetary value a great rate of return, but there's so much we can gain from the tourism industry. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see people visiting Winnipeg, not only because of great sporting events that we host, various conventions and conferences, but because they can visit the Manitoba Museum that's across the street, the planetarium, the Human Rights Museum, the Folks, but also one of the oldest homes in Winnipeg at 94 Cathedral, close to 130 years old. We have the north gate of Upper Fort Garry, which was preserved. I often think back, wow, wouldn't it have been amazing if we still had Upper Fort Garry to tell our story of Winnipeg, and just head a little further north of Winnipeg to tie that Winnipeg's rich history in with Lower Fort Garry, Captain Kennedy Tea House, which is undergoing restoration work. But I know I've digressed slightly from 94 Cathedral just to highlight the importance of preserving our rich heritage. Perhaps it's disappointing to see it boarded up, and I know there's been a concern lately in the city with boarded up properties and the challenges they face and with fire and those sort of things. Perhaps we can pause a little bit, not necessarily put the brakes. I can appreciate the developer wanting to move forward and the community wanting to move forward and subdividing these lots. But I've spoken to people in the area, and I'm aware of there's philanthropists, there's organizations that will do matching grants, fundraisers, different opportunities to raise funds, perhaps multiple levels of government financial support. Maybe I know you need to make decisions, and things need to move forward with progressing with our city, but perhaps there could be an additional time period or more research into what can be done to preserve this iconic 130-year-old home in Winnipeg. What also stands out recently in the news is the former Hudson's Bay. Within 2 years, $200 million has come to the forefront to support the Southern Chiefs organization to preserve the Hudson's Bay Company. Perhaps we can explore other options to preserve some of our gems. I know it was stated $7 million for Holy Trinity. I also read that for 94 Cathedral, somewhere between the neighborhood of $150,000 and $300,000. But compared to a dollar amount of $200 million going into the Hudson's Bay to restore and renovate that facility, perhaps we can look at some of the other options, and maybe the city of Winnipeg or the province of Manitoba or Parks Canada, the federal government, may come forward with some strategy to preserve 94 Cathedral. It would be remarkable to see that, and how can we, as a collective group, collective citizens, work together. I'm in opposition of the demolition of this home. Perhaps, as I mentioned, a little more time, but let's work together to preserve this rich history. Once it's gone, it's gone forever, and what makes Winnipeg unique is its culture, its history. Thank you very much. Okay, Councilor Shire.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Truly, what is your name, sir?
Brooke Jones.
Brooke
Jones.
Brooke Jones.
Yes, thank you.
And you were mentioning the oldest theater in the city. What were you mentioning?
I was in the oldest theater in Western Canada.
Yeah,
just down the street from here. It was torn down, I believe, to build the there's a regional health center building. My whole life I lived in Winnipeg, traveled up and down Main Street. I was talking to older generations that recall going to movies as kids decades ago in that older theater. I wish, had I known at the time, I would have loved to have explored it. Maybe we could have repurposed it. In Selkirk, there's the old Gary Theater. Of course, since the pandemic, less people are going to theaters. So in Selkirk, they're restoring this old theater, the oldest theater in Selkirk, to repurpose it with the city of Selkirk. So it was after the fact I learned that they tore down the oldest theater in Western Canada. I wish I'd known that. Maybe there would have been a rally call.
Fair enough. You're aware. You're aware of the difference. It seems like you're aware of the difference between different designations that the city has for our buildings and historical resources. And there could be a commemorative list, but that doesn't give it the same status of protection as other lists of historical significance, there's sort of different levels.
It's, I used to work for public affairs at the U of M and learned that some organizations or homeowners or businesses don't want that designation just down the street on Albert there because of the necessary upgrades to codes. I'm a member of St. John's Anglican Cathedral. We can't do additional work. Well, we can, but it needs to be single shapes for the roof. You need to adhere for those particular designations, so I can see where the challenge comes in financially for these people that are designated specifically historic compared to commemorative lists. So not to say it gets confusing, but there's many designations and some that are being overturned. Some want to be listed as historic. So
I really do appreciate your presentation and your perspective. And in this case, you would like to keep it. You bear in mind, this is private property, and we're talking about 100,000 or 200,000 of repairs. You're saying it was to the foundation alone, or to the whole thing?
Regarding the 7 million, that's related to Holy Trinity Church and its foundation. Whereas with Polson House figures, I'm not too sure about the foundation, what status is it in, but as I went by, I was quite impressed the state of it is for having been boarded up for 5 to 6 years. It's private, not necessary. It would be nice if the city had a fund to assist with this, or during the pandemic, there was a lot of emergency funds for business owners, but perhaps when it's related to funding our roofs, there's this pool of funds that they can pay back at 0% or a low interest rate. Or the city of Winnipeg, the previous council offered the Southern Chiefs 25 years of no property taxes. The Bay was quoted at $350,000 a year, and I remember they tried to sell it for $1, and even UW turned that down since many people can't afford, or businesses, the property tax. But perhaps at this location, if someone was to step forward, what incentives are there? A reduction in property tax. I know in the area there's some homes that house refugees, or so often when people are evacuated from various rural communities, they're housed in hotels, but perhaps some of these houses or buildings could be saved and they can be transformed, kind of like Oddfellows house, Ralph Connor House in Westgate. So it'd be nice if, I know the city purse strings are pretty tight, but if there's some extra incentives for property owners to step forward to help this.
The money's really tight, and when it comes to the committee that does have some sort of bearing, we're only talking about maybe $60,000 a year for the entire city in terms of funding. You may be aware that Councillor Orlick and myself have been appointed for a number of years by our fellow councillors to the Historical Building and Resource Center. A number of years. Are you aware that the city's done notable work, including under sort of initiated by Jenny Gervasi, former councillor Jenny Gervasi, when she was councillor, on these issues of maintaining historical significance throughout the city, well, primarily downtown, but in the older areas of the city.
Yes, aware of that. And so often the focus is on the downtown. And you hear about sort of, I live in Fort Garry, Riel House, or I wasn't even aware, as I mentioned, Polson House. And I know there's the National Monuments Board and with the Parks Canada, and they can put up beautiful monuments. And that was suggested by this property owner or monument. Yeah, ideally, it's nice if you can save the entire home or building, at least maybe the facade, if not a monument. And I commend the city, and it's for the number of historical locations we have, we are doing a great job in preserving. However, I think the attention that this got recently in the last week, a lot of people aren't even aware of it. Maybe there are opportunities for more people to come forward, philanthropists, business owners that want to take an opportunity to preserve such a thing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Chair.
Also in support of the appeal, we have Walter Kleinschmidt, who will be joining us over Zoom. Walter, I'm just going to ask you to unmute and turn on your video, and you'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, here you can't see you though. Oh, there you are.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm calling. I'm talking from the parking lot of Point Douglas Park, where we've just witnessed the announcement of the Little Forks project, which you'll all hear about in tonight's TV or tomorrow's newspaper. So to start at the beginning, councillors, thank you very much for this opportunity and flexibility of access. I'm Walter Kleinschmidt, president of Heritage Saint-Boniface, and I typically advocate for heritage preservation, which is part of the Francophone community that is on the east side of the Red River. Today, I'm speaking in favor of the appeal to prevent approval of a variance of a lot to enable construction of two houses specifically as described or as will be submitted within the guidelines of the description, which is therefore a very open-ended approval. Gillian Crawford has submitted a written proposal which really describes a property well and its importance historically, as did the previous speaker. Yesterday, I spent the afternoon driving up and down Cathedral Avenue and surrounding areas and visiting the two local museum, Ross House and Park and Seven Oaks Museum, and discovered, I must admit, a truly beautiful historic neighborhood which I was not really aware of, and I'm embarrassed by my ignorance. 94 Cathedral definitely belongs there as it was built, but yes, renovated to correct recent years of neglect. My support of the appeal in objection to the variance are as follows. One, by the owner's own admission, reported in the Free Press yesterday, the house would need $350,000 to be brought up to code. That, in fact, is a bargain for a house of 22,000 square feet. To make it livable, due to its unprotected status, the renovation process would be simplified, especially on the interior, and be dependent upon the owner's willingness to be reasonable and cooperative. The exterior and the grounds can be maintained, the character of the neighborhood protected, and the investment provide a financial return to the owner, which I think could be as good as what he's anticipating now if he invests over $1 million in building two houses. In St. Boniface, with help of Heritage Saint-Boniface, the owner of a similar era house, Maison Béliveau, the residence of the very early mayor of St. Boniface, rehabilitated a 6,000 square foot house for which he recently received an award from Winnipeg Historical Society and confirmed the viability of such a project. I talked to him yesterday. He actually offered his help and allowed me to tell the owner via your committee chairman that he's ready to work with them in one manner or another. He has no doubt he would buy the house if he could. The 30-page report written to support the city's recommendation mentions demolition only twice, on page 7 and 9. And it's beyond the 5 pages which you as a committee will be reviewing in terms, here is the variance, here is the fact, and here's the motion that needs to be passed or rejected. There is no mention in the motion that a consequence, a significant consequence, is demolition. For years, I've noted that in case of residential units, even those unfit to be lived in need a demolition permit. Doesn't seem to be required this time, which is only granted when a building permit is issued for the property. No such requirement is applicable on a variance, and there's not even a building plan yet, just a preliminary plan as a directional statement. And most significantly, the documentation which you've provided is not consistent with the city's map, Google aerial map, or assessment map. Now, that argument to make the report invalid and be withdrawn by the lawyer seems to have been shattered, or at least challenged, by the introductory remarks, saying that a 50-foot lot and a 25-foot lot were created from 94 Sutherland. But I'm surprised that is not on the record. Particularly, it's not on the tax record, which might imply that the new lot is not paying taxes. So I think clarification is needed to the legal status of the property today. It's shown on all city documentation as 75 foot wide. Therefore, the entire description of the variance is not valid. And I've had, and in party to agenda items and variance appeals subject to being pulled back or postponed for clarification due to mathematical errors and information errors of much less importance, including a miscalculation of feet to meters. The 94 Cathedral is shown on all your maps at 75-foot frontage. The house is positioned and touches, it's on all 3 plots. So I'm not sure how you divided the plot there. And 94 Cathedral is a major house surrounded with primary properties, all with 50-foot frontage. And the smallest plots closer to Main Street are 28 feet. The house is in character and fits beautifully in the neighborhood. So in conclusion, I believe that the proposal as written did not reflect the facts as is publicly known. Justification that the variance is minimal or compatible with the area situation is not really valid in this case. If you drive around, look around, get a feel for the property, I can't see a modern house there. There's more houses with modern painting and color scheme, but the whole character, the whole neighborhood is so true to its origin. It's really quite amazing, priceless, and must be protected to the best of our ability. We don't want a first project, which then becomes an easy precedent for the next and the next and the next. And bearing in mind, to my surprise, that this motion, this variance, if it was accepted, was refused and the variances were accepted, a demolition could take place without further without further action, and could take place, I suspect, right after the city council meeting reviews all of those situations. And then we have a vacant lot, and who knows what will happen next, especially with the changing zoning in a few months, where this owner might just decide to take advantage of the new circumstances. So I'm very, very concerned. I do please ask the committee to accept the appeal, send this back to the drawing table, and let's find a way. And if the owner wishes to reach out to me, I think he can get my number through the administration office and know me well there, too well sometimes. And I'm glad to refer them to the owner of Béliveau House, who has done a bigger project in a very similar state. A designated building that is not protected. He decided to protect the building, protect the exterior, protect the property, and make the internal property livable and up to code. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Who's next? Oh, did you have your hand? Sorry, Councilor Sharp.
Merci, Monsieur Kleinschmidt, pour ta présentation. And speaking in terms of your involvement with St. Boniface Heritage with the name Kleinschmidt, you may be aware of the history that St. Boniface is the patron saint of Germany, of all things. Were you aware of that, sir?
Yes, I am. We moved to St. Boniface in 54 as immigrants because it was the lowest rent district that my father could find a house for the family. And everything else came after our knowledge, and we appreciate it very much.
Fair enough. And I truly appreciate, and I'm not the only one on council that appreciates your love for the heritage and architecture of the city. And things like today are painful, and I can certainly see why you are here today, Mr. Kleinschmidt. I guess you're talking about I guess one concern I have, and I like to think I know where you're coming from on this, but you're saying the value to the private property owner if they were to put in a few $100,000 into the building, into the house, and the benefit they would get from that. That's a big factor for you in your presentation. I get the impression.
Yeah, I correct, Councillor. I do believe that historical properties have to be financially viable to one party or another. Otherwise, they then become statues, and then they become derelict, and then they get destroyed. So I fully support the desire, and it was demonstrated by the owner of Saint-Jean-Baptiste, Maison Béliveau, that it can work. At the $350,000 amortized over 40 years, and it's not saying that he would borrow everything, the rent factor would be about $2,000 a month. If he's going to demolish, clear the lot, and build two new houses, quick finger of calculation, he's going to invest well over $1 million. So it's $1 million for two houses versus $350,000 for a great, beautiful house. And if you do internal rate of return houses, which I've done a lot of in my days, it's not a bad deal for the owner, and I'm glad to sit with him. I did that for a living for my last 60 years in real estate development.
Are you aware that were we in and out, the resources available to, provide real financial assistance to promoting and maintaining the heritage and historical value of buildings and resources in Winnipeg is extremely limited. We're talking less than $100,000 a year is our fund.
My financial assessment achieves no subsidy from any organization.
Yeah.
The only one that might be interested would be the Orangemen Association or the Women of the British Empire, because it is really, ironically for me, in terms of St. Boniface, it's the other side of the Métis story of Manitoba. An important story that has two sides, like every story. And the MMF itself might be interested, but I don't think that house needs significant subsidy. I think that house needs significant love and care, like was done and what can be done in pride in ownership, and it becomes a viable rental property.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Excellent.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes those who had registered in support of the appeal. Just to confirm, is there anyone in the gallery who would like to speak in support of the appeal? Seeing none, we can move on to those in opposition. We have the applicant who is attending in person. Tajinder Pal Singh, if you'd like to come forward, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
Respected councillors, my name is Tajinder Singh. I have a quick presentation to show to everybody.
Oh yeah, I can get you set up here. Want me to send me a copy of already? Thank you.
You go check you one.
Skills. Hello, councillors. So my name is Tajinder Singh. I'm here to present the application for 94 Cathedral lot split variance application. This is the current house, 1894 built. It's not salvageable as per our estimates. There are two underlying lots present over here. In a R2, it's on R2 zone site, multifamily zone site. It's 50 feet by 126 feet. That's the current condition of the house. It has been trespassed many times and used for drug abuse. Okay, the site access and demographics. The site is in very close proximity to frequent transit route of Main Street, Buxton School and Community Center, Mary Carda Child Care Center are nearby locations, along with Ukrainian Church and Seven Oaks Museum. Restaurants like A&W, 7-Eleven Groceries, and No Frills are about 100 to 200 meters from this location. Again, this shows the nearby locations. Points to consider: Main Street is a transit-oriented route. Planners support the development. Design was prepared in consultation with the planners. Water and waste has no capacity concerns for two single-family houses. We have engaged with neighbors and neighborhood and shown them plans in December, then again in January, and then again in April. We have got support from 75, 95, and 89 Cathedral Avenue. And we also have letter of support from Seven Oaks Historical Society and Heritage Winnipeg, who have come in and visited the site. This has a paved concrete backlane. It can be reaffirmed by the public service. No trees are being cut over here currently. These are support signatures from some of the neighbors I've mentioned before. This is a letter from the Heritage Society. I have made 3 copies of the letter. I have already sent it to the clerks. If you want, I can give you 3 copies of the letter after I conclude my presentation. Email from the Water and Waste showing that there are no capacity concerns. We also hired an independent contractor to see the feasibility of saving the house when we were in talks with the Historical Society. The amount came out to be somewhere north of $350,000. In terms of design, we are providing 6 feet high fence, green area for landscaping, which is more than 30%. Building lot coverage for each house is 30%, which is permitted as per infill guidelines, paved paved concrete parking pads in the back. We are following the front alignment and rear alignment and side yard requirements. The height is less than 28 feet as stated in the infill guidelines. We are at only 26 feet of height. Some high quality architectural material has been used like bait and board, lap siding, acrylic stucco. In my closing comments, I would like to say we ask for your support on this project. It's favorable to city's densification goals. Design matches character and surrounding houses. Similar projects have been approved in the past. It will help in solving housing and rental crisis in the city. We are planting 2 trees and 8 shrubs in total with grass in front and back to make it attractive. We have done thorough consultation and gone back and forth with historical societies, neighboring residents and people from neighborhood. Privacy screens are also installed around balconies, back balconies of the house. It's a perfect example for increasing densification. And in my closing comments, I know it has historical value and it is of sentimental value to certain people involved, but considering the state of the house, it is simply not feasible to renovate it as the cost is very exponential. And plus the site has been neglected for a while. The current owner, it has been about 1.5 years since he purchased the property. Prior to that, it has caught fire because again, nobody was living inside. It's like a sore thumb to some of the residents who pass by it daily. So I ask for your support. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Very much. Questions?
I don't.
Okay. You're done. Thank you very much.
At this time, is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to the appeal? Like to speak in opposition? And sorry, what was your name? Okay. We do also have a submission from Kenneth, but yeah, you can certainly come forward. You'll have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation after you state your name.
Good morning / afternoon, depending on when this begins.
10 minutes, so you're
Top of the day.
top of the day.
Perfect.
Good morning.
My name is Kenneth Ingram. As you can see, I submitted a letter jointly with Heritage Winnipeg. I would have registered to speak, but I was in 2 separate classes at the University of Winnipeg today. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to make it here. This issue is extremely important to me. I'm a resident of the neighborhood and have been for just around 2 years now, or maybe the adjacent neighborhood. I got all of the benefit of viewing this house, but none of the downside of having to live right next to it. And this house has been a problem for a long time. And so what I've noticed from these delegations is we see a pattern of people supporting the appeal, but who don't have to live next to it. So they had 3 letters of support, or three neighbors signed on, but it wouldn't have been hard to find a lot more sign on because at this point, people are tired of it. If you zoom back to the appeal committee from September of 2021, you'll see far more people supporting an appeal to stop a developer from developing the lot, and even one person offering to buy it from the developer. Well, this house went for sale, and it was for sale for well over 6 months, and no one bought it. It was listed for $230,000 or so, and people had assessments done on it, and the price to fix it was astronomical. There's only maybe one person that disagrees that it's a viable investment opportunity. So barring some governing agency or multiple and some large groundswell of community support, there's no possible way that this could be restored. Even though it would make a great building, and there would be a possibility to restore it, and it could have made a great option for instance, a great community center and commemorating like the British home children who were scooped up and brought to Canada in the 18 and 1900s, because there's a lot of homes in the area from that. But I digress. At this point, it makes me sick, and it's been on my mind so much so that I had a nightmare last night about this home being demolished. But the silver lining in all of this is I have to give the developer this time around a lot of credit, because as soon as I made contact with him and the gentleman who's been representing him, they have been nothing short of outstanding with communication. And I think what this proves is developers reaching out to organizations like Heritage Winnipeg, like us at the Seven Oaks Historical Society. It really goes a long way to making everyone feeling a lot better about this situation. So we've talked about doing things like making sure the house, the inside, the exterior is documented so that we can put together a video or a blog post. We've talked about salvaging parts that we can. I was in the home last Monday. There's still some beautiful character on the inside that I look forward to taking out, and neighbors have come to me with interest of repurposing some of them on the exterior of their homes. And the possible historical marker, which the developer, because he's holding on to these properties, he has been agreeable to allowing us to put some type of historical marker on the property once the two new infill homes are up. So I just have to say, as someone who, and again, Victorian homes, especially homes from this area, they're so irreplaceable, and they're my favorite type of home personally. If we're going to have to lose one, I think that it couldn't have been done in possibly a better way than the way that the developer has gone about it. So I won't say anything more, but I just wanted to come here today on my way home from the university and just elaborate a little bit on my letter, and thank again the developer for being in touch with us.
Thank you for taking the time and presenting. Councillor Sharon?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. You're empathizing on different levels on this one. One as a neighbor, or from the neighborhood, but as well one as you said Winnipeg. You said Heritage Winnipeg.
Heritage Winnipeg as well. Cindy and myself.
Yes, indeed.
Got together, and the developer, if you haven't read the letter yet, the developer allowed us to tour the home last Monday and has been responsive with us back and forth throughout the process.
Okay, so you're in a unique position because your active care and concern for these issues has been expressed for years with Seven Oaks Museum, Heritage Winnipeg, and what are you studying?
Education.
Okay, well that doesn't apply. History. And so you're saying that as a neighbor from someone from the neighborhood, you realize that supersedes, that's your perspective, that supersedes the historical virtue of the place given the circumstances. Once again, could you explain those circumstances? That the way I see it, your love for heritage and history and architecture is superseded by the issues regarding the dilapidation, the vagrancy that's taking place there? Am I getting this right?
Correct.
Okay.
It doesn't take much effort to go through all of the various community online groups and see all of the peril that this home has put neighbors through over the last many years. And I don't live on one of those three streets. I live a fair ways further north towards Kildonan Park. And because of that, I've never had to deal with that. So I empathize very much with those neighbors and realize that even though there are homes that have spent far longer than this vacant, and I think of the Barber House as an example, it took 50+ years for that one to be vacant and on fire before it was eventually restored. And it's possible in a parallel universe or somewhere down the line that would happen with this. I have to empathize with those neighbors that have been through this once already, had a developer not go through with the development, and then 3 or 2.5 more years of this. I understand how exhausting that probably is. So.
Now you bothered to mention this, and I think it's important. In fact, it might play out it might possibly be played out in the resulting motion here. But you bothered to mention taking historical pieces from the house, and you think others have too. That seems like maybe the best way we can salvage, excuse the pun, and the historical significance of this. So you're aware that this is being done, given the vagrancy that's taken place here in the break-ins. One could say that that could be illegal. You're doing it with the permission of the owner.
So sorry, what is the
question? Well, you said you took some pieces. You salvaged some pieces from.
We will be. That's the plan. Yes, and because after touring it, there's still a lot of very interesting pieces on the inside, whether it be crown moldings or ceiling medallions or even stained glass that isn't broken yet. It's amazing that there are still some of those pieces in there. So the fact that the developer is willing to let us take those is very, we appreciate it.
Well, that's a big deal. Sometimes that's all you can do. And that can be a big deal because you don't know over time, over the generations to come, sort of how these pieces, what they mean to other people and other homes for generations to come. You just mentioned what can be, in my mind, just some beauties, stained glass, medallions, things like that. So the owner is allowing for this to happen. Sounds like in a rather structured way. Is going to allow for this to happen. Is yourself? You know if any other members of the community are going to have be able to? I don't know what you do. Rip it off the ceiling. I don't know. But like the stained glass windows, that sounds fantastic. So there's going to be a formal or structured process by which the owner is going to allow people to take some things before demolition.
Yes, the owner has, just based on my interactions with him thus far and how well he's communicated all of this, I joked with him saying, I was just worried when I saw this variance out front, I'd walk by one day and it would just be gone. And he's assured us that will not be the case, that there's going to be communication around this process. And I trust that he's going to hold his word on that and really appreciate it.
No further questions. Thank you, Chair Parwadi.
Okay, thank you very much. No other questions? Thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much.
So that concludes those registered in opposition. Just to confirm, there's no one in the gallery looking to speak in opposition. We had no one registered for information. Just to confirm, there's no one in the gallery looking to speak for information. So at this time, we can go to questions of the public service. None. That we can move on to motions.
The report of Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All's in favor? Opposed, carried.
The receipt of public representation be concluded.
All's in favor? Opposed, carried.
In accordance with subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and an applicable secondary plan. B does not create a substantial adverse effect on many use, safety, convenience of adjoining property adjacent areas, including areas separated by property and street and waterway, and is a minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to release any effects in the zoning bylaw allowing property, and B is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. Supporting reasons. We heard some passionate arguments from two people in opposition to the to the application, which is again, doesn't matter where you live, you have a right to speak, and I'm glad they came out and spoke. So the idea of, kind of what the idea here was, it's even not even in the historical conservation district model. Because that's more really does talk about some older buildings do have to come down at times, but they talk more about design when it goes back up. So the idea that we're going to be we can say here today that a person who has a building that is boarded up and has crime in it and has $350,000+ it's a rental work plus the purchasing price of $250,000 plus, so $500,000 home, and without any kind of background of groups that are coming to rally together to actually try to support it, and the fact that we have two historical societies both agreeing that this is unfortunately the time that it needs to happen. The fact that they're not removing any trees, the fact, and again, I stress this, and this is what I'll be stressing. I think just the fact that the developer has gone for extra effort to try to accommodate, including looking at taking some pieces out and the placard, the on front, just reminding people of the history. So I'm sure we'd all love to keep the building. We'd like to be able to dump $1 million into it. I'd love to dump a $7 million plus into the church downtown. But again, that is not our role at this point. We do have some heritage conservation credits, but this building, unfortunately, I know Ms. Tugwell is here. She called it demolition by neglect, but it is past that point, and it is creating a problem in the neighborhood. And I really didn't see a lot of people in opposition into the actual lot split or from the neighborhood. So for those reasons, I'll be supporting I will be supporting the appeal.
Okay, Councilor Shattuck, sure.
Sure. Yeah, this one hurts it. This is why we have appeals, and there's passion, that love for history, heritage, those intangibles that give value to our lives as individually or as a society. These things are real. You cannot move a square inch without seeing aesthetic being built into anything we create. And that is, I think, we take it for granted. So these things matter to people. Having said that, we don't have the resources for this one, and we have taken greater priorities for other things to make sure that we as a city do maintain history and heritage for posterity into the future. Happens to be that we can't do this in this case, and it hurts. But the best thing to do is what we've just heard from our last presentation, and that is that pieces of items from this place can be taken, preserved, and maintained by those around that wish to care for them, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And unfortunately, the best we can do in this situation. But I'm really pleased to hear about that. I just think that's excellent. Keeping these little pieces, they're going to mean things for people over the decades and generations, and we can say centuries, because that is what these aspects of history and historical preservation and heritage are about. And I'm pleased to see that there will be one aspect of that in this process coming out of renewal in this case.
I too have a soft spot for our historic built heritage. I don't like the fact that this is more demolition by neglect, but I will also be supporting it for the reasons stated by Councillor Orlando and Councillor Shires. So on that, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That the appeal be denied in order DAV 113586/2024C be confirmed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The decision Director of Property Planning and Development be concurred in.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
The public hearing with respect to the appeal be concluded.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move to adjourn.
Not just yet.
Come on.
Unfortunately,
So close.
So there is there's one more thing to address before the end of the meeting. Item 4 was an appeal against the decision of the Riel Community Committee to approve a variance for 366 Marion Street and 284 and 288 Des Miron under DAB 1086858/2024D. Please be advised that the appeal hearing, which was originally scheduled for today, May 29th, 2024, needs to be adjourned Wednesday, June 12th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. at the council building at 510 Main Street due to improper notice, and we will just need a motion from the committee for that.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.